Hey everybody, Derek here to bring you another video for Fear the Walking Dead. And what this video is going to be doing is my review for the most recent episode, which was Cobalt. I just watched it, and I have to say that I thought it was pretty good. I think it's finally fitting into the theme of what a lot of us want to see in The Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead itself. We want to see more of that drama, intense suspense, really seeing the survivors pushing themselves. And I think we finally got to see some of that tonight. So I was really, really impressed with it. I'm going to give you guys my overall thoughts. If you have not watched the episode, do not watch the video, otherwise you will be spoiled. Okay, here we go. So, the episode starts out with the hospital where everybody was taken to from the last episode. It was some kind of a compound a couple miles away, and we're introduced to Strand, who is a different character that we haven't met yet, but somebody that was talked about. He's African American. He has a beard. Actually, a fine, well-dressed man. He was wearing, what you would consider as fancy clothing, and he's inside of a cell with Nick and Doug and a couple of other individuals. And he's talking to Doug, and he's actually, talking, pretty intense to him, talking about how, how he can sell anything except for insurance because he, doesn't really agree with people, trusting their families to just a piece of paper. And he kind of, manipulates Doug in a way, manipulates his weaknesses, because Doug is a big family man. And, Strand basically says, hey, if your wife's hot, well, boy, I tell you, she's going to be able to survive this because, she's got the figure that would make anybody, want to help her, and he was kind of insinuating that he would. And Doug just had a mental breakdown, which, as a result, the soldiers come and get him. And at first I was like, what the heck is this guy? Is he just somebody who, has nothing better to do at this time? But it turns out he actually did have a plan. I think I connected all the dots, really. And what happens later in the episode with them is, they come to get Nick, and Strand asks the soldier not to take Nick away, and he bribes him with some of his jewelry, which the soldier agrees to, and as a result, they bring Nick back. And Nick was like, "Well, why are you sticking your neck out for me? I mean, what am I, what am I to you?" And actually, Strand says that Nick is very valuable to him. Strand basically has the idea of escaping from this place. I think that he has, come to terms with the fact that things are not going to go back to the way that they were. Some of the operations of the National Guard and just, the senses that he's picking up bother him. And I think that he's a very perceptive person. And I think the reason why he caused Doug to have that emotional breakdown was because he wanted to, in a sense, see who can help him and who can't. And also, I think it was so the soldiers would, come and get him, one less obstacle, as well as he gets to observe the patterns. He gets to observe how the soldiers go about their routine, things along that line. That was just part of Strand's plan, I think. And he is able to obtain a key to what I'm assuming might be the gate that they're in, that little gated cell. And he says, he needs Nick for when the time is right for them to make their escape. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting. But that's what I think was going on. And Strand really does seem like a very, very mysterious, interesting character that I really hope we learn more about as time goes on. He's very philosophical. He's very, again, I think he's very perceptive of his surroundings, and I think that he's intelligent. And I think that if he does survive and he becomes a very central character, I think we'll come to really like him, and he'll become somebody very interesting. But that's what happened on that end of the story. A couple of other things that happened with some of the other characters. We have Chris and Alicia, who, obviously Chris is still worried about his mother. So Alicia, in a sense, helps to distract him, and they end up going to this house that is on their block that was owned by somebody who was probably pretty rich, because they have fancy dresses, fancy suits. a big grand piano in the living room, a lot of, vases and chandeliers. I mean, they were living the high life before all this, happened. And, Chris and Alicia just, have some fun. They go inside, they dress up, they play with some of the toys, and then, then they proceed to vandalize the place. They were talking about, they wondered who lived there and what happened to them. And I think, again, I think that really this was an opportunity for them to, I think vent, because obviously Alicia's worried about her brother as well. So I think that this was just an opportunity for them to vent, get their frustrations out. They were probably a little bored, so they were, having a little fun. And it was kind of interesting some of the interactions that they were having. When Alicia was trying on the dress, Chris happened to look up and peek at what she was doing, and it really makes you wonder if there may be some romance down the road. I mean, hey, they're not biologically related. That doesn't necessarily you know exclude them from potentially getting together. It's frowned upon still, I mean, in our society, but the rules may change as time goes on, in this zombie apocalypse world. And again, it just really did open up a couple possibilities that maybe there is something growing between them. It may not even be love, it just may actually be just a mutual respect for each other, because they really didn't know each other before this started. And really this is the opportunity for them to get to know each other and just learn to live together, because their families are blended now, as a result of the divorce and Travis getting with Madison. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It was something that they were up to in the episode. We also have Travis, who mostly during this episode, Travis was wondering exactly what's going on. Where are their people? And that's a lot of the big concern in the episode, that Ophelia, Daniel Salazar, Travis, Madison, all of them, and the neighborhood in general, are just really upset and really concerned about what is going on. They don't have answers. The soldiers came and took approximately a dozen people out of the community, no word about where anybody is at, and that's obviously going to frustrate people. And I can't say that I blame them. I mean, even though desperate times do call for desperate measures, sometimes you have to go about things in a certain way. And I think that the way that the National Guard went about it was very poor and did leave people, distrusting them. And I wouldn't trust them either. And that will become more apparent as the review goes on. But Travis wants to know where everybody is at, and he goes to talk to the person in charge, Moyers, who tries to give him his little political speech again. But when Travis is persistent, Moyers is like, oh, okay, you know what? The mayor wants to go, I'll take you. And he actually, him and a couple of other soldiers start to take Travis down to the compound. Along the way, though, they have to stop at a couple of places, and Moyers actually tests Travis that there's a walker inside of one of the stores, and he wants Travis to shoot her, and Travis can't bring himself to do it. He tries several times but can't bring himself to pull the trigger. And I think that really, a lot of that is related to just reminding us about who these characters are and how different they are. You have characters like Madison and Daniel who have started to sever ties, that they realize that things are not going to go back to the way that they were, and that they're, ready for survival. They're ready to plan. They're ready to do what needs to be done. Travis isn't there yet. Travis is still in that state of believing that the National Guard is going to make things better. And, again, this philosophy of, are the walkers alive or dead? Or, we know what they are now. Of course, they don't. They haven't been to the CDC. They haven't learned about all of these, different qualities about the walkers. And, of course, they haven't decomposed much. So they still do retain those human-like qualities. So I think that was the big reminder there. And, of course, they then stop at another place where there were some walkers, and they go inside this building. There's a bunch of gunfire and everything, and Moyers ends up getting killed. Apparently, we don't actually see it But the soldiers go in, you hear chaos, they come back out, they claim that Moyer's died. So most likely, maybe he did. Maybe he didn't, but if they're going to pursue that, then I guess we'll find out in the next episode. But Moyers does not come back, and the rest of the soldiers, they're like, no, we're done with this. Okay, we're not putting ourselves in any more danger. We're taking you back to the compound. Sorry, but that's just the way it's going to be. So they take Travis back. Now, there's other things going on, of course, and back at the compound, we also see what Liza is doing, helping people out. And she, again, is, unsure of whether people really are getting adequate care there or whether there are, terrible things going on. She doesn't really have a lot of trust in Dr. Exner. And we find out that Griselda had to have her foot amputated, and she Liza's wondering exactly what's going on with her, and I think she was concerned. Are they actually trying to save her, or you see when a soldier came in with bite marks. Dr. Exner seemed very interested in that. So part of me was starting to wonder, is this a lab where they're basically going to use the wheat to experiment on, to try to figure out exactly what the virus is, etc. I thought that might be what they were doing, but we find out that Griselda, isn't being experimented on, and unfortunately, Griselda does die in this episode. It turns out that even though they amputated her foot, things were done a little too late. She went into septic shock and she passes away in the episode. And what ends up happening is Dr. Exner actually gives Liza the I think it's called a cap. It's something that they use for livestock. The way that they put the livestock down when they, butcher them and make them into various meat products. It was one of those guns, and they used that in order to put the bullet in Griselda's head to make sure that she didn't come back as a walker. So it's pretty clear that some people do intend to do some good there, but of course you do wonder, what exactly is going to happen to the people that are there, because this is the big part of the story coming up right now, which really makes me very excited and very, curious to see exactly how the season is going to end next week. Because if you remember in last week's episode, Ophelia was getting close with that soldier, Adams. And, I alluded, I was like, well, maybe it's just, hey, she likes him. It's the end of the world. Hey, why not, get close and intimate with somebody? But it turns out that she did have ulterior motives. I thought maybe there might be a chance of that, and it turns out that there was. Because again, Daniel and Ophelia are concerned about Griselda, wondering where she is. They're not getting any answers, and they realize that one of the only ways that they're going to get her back is to get information. And, well, they do it by kidnapping Adams. And Daniel takes Adams to the basement of the Clark residence, Madison's residence, and Madison ends up finding him downstairs and asks Daniel, what is he going to do? And, well, Daniel is going to torture him. And we do find out a little bit more about Daniel Salazar's past, which, we knew that he was in an area of warfare when he was a younger person. And it turns out that, he wasn't just a civilian or innocent bystander. He was involved with the warfare. And it turns out he was a torturer. He was an interrogator. And he equates it to this. He said, you were either going to be the man in the chair or the man holding the blade. And he admits that, he told Ophelia about some of the things that happened in the war, but he never exactly said what he did. And Ophelia doesn't realize that Daniel's going to torture Adams. She just thinks that they're holding him captive to trade him for Griselda, but that's not the case at all. And Daniel Salazar actually ends up torturing Adams in order to get information from him. And Ophelia walks in on him and it's just shocking. She is very upset by what happened. Seeing her father doing something like this, she just walks out of the room with the 1,000-yard stare. So she now realizes the true nature of her father, and we do realize again that Daniel Salazar is somebody who is very suited for this world. He is somebody that has been in a survival situation before, and this is really no different. It's just a different enemy, different rules, but he knows how to adapt to that. We saw that when he shot that walker in episode 3. I mean, he had no hesitation. He knows exactly what he needs to do. And Travis comes back and finds out what they're doing and is of course shocked, and also shocked that Madison let it happen, because Madison knows what Daniel's doing, but she basically just keeps it hush hush. She doesn't tell anybody. She doesn't save him at all, and she just lets it happen. And Travis finds out about that, but it turns out that Salazar torturing Adams was in a sense a good thing, quote unquote, because the episode's called Cobalt. We find out what that means. Cobalt is an operation name, which that's what I figured, because a lot of these missions and things. I mean, you think about Operation Overlord, Operation Desert Storm, Desert Fox. You have a lot of these various names of operations that happen that are military in nature, and I kind of figured it might have something to do with that, and it does. Cobalt is the signal for evacuation from the LA basin. And of course, they're thinking, oh, so we're all going to leave. And Adams drops the bombshell, well, no, we are not all going to leave, just the soldiers. And they're going to go about ways to exterminate the area, which I'm assuming based on what happened in The Walking Dead. If you remember that flashback in season 2 to when Shane, Lori, Carl, and then you had Carol, Ed, and Sophia were all on the road looking out at Atlanta. They were stuck in traffic. They dropped that, I don't know whether it was napalm or whether it was a certain kind of bomb or something, but it was just a bomb that incinerated the entire city. It sent fireballs down the entire streets and all that, and it pretty much, if you're in that area, you're getting incinerated. I'm assuming that might be what is happening here, and that would make sense, in the large scheme of things. And it is sad, it turns out that there really is no rescue plan. There is no plan for this area to be brought back. There is no plan to thrive again. They're gonna exterminate everybody, and the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And it turns out that the soldiers or government or whoever's involved with this has decided that only essential personnel get to survive. And this is not unexpected. When it comes to something like this, you see this in all other kinds of media. Various different films, TV shows about apocalypses, end of the world kind of stuff, where sometimes you do decide you're going to decimate one area to save other people. It's just the way that some of these go down. So obviously we're going to see our survivors attempting to survive. Are they going to get out in time? Who's going to go? Who's not? A lot of questions. And then, of course, you have another revelation where Adams tells Salazar that he was at an arena where there were over 2,000 survivors there, and he locked the doors, and basically everybody inside was killed. Salazar goes to the arena, and that's the last thing we see in the episode, is him standing outside that arena and seeing the doors push open, and you hear the walkers screaming behind there, and you know that he was telling the truth. So it really hits home that yes, the soldiers are not here to help. They are planning on evacuating, leaving the area, and they start to do that in the episode. And we'll really have to wonder who all is going to make it out, who won't, how will it end. And I just can't believe that not tomorrow, next week is the season finale. It's very, very hard to believe, but it's here. It is what it is, and Walking Dead is around the corner, and I'm really looking forward to the new season of Walking Dead in a couple of weeks. I'm very, very excited. But that's all I have for this video. If you guys have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to leave them. Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming. If you guys have any other suggestions for future videos that you would like to see, please don't be afraid to suggest them. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and thank you very much for watching.